there, welcome back to my channel. To make these cards, step 1, download my free PDF pattern and print it onto cardstock. There are 2 pages in my PDF file. Page 1 has 2 hearts, and page 2 has the additional message of Be Mine, Valentine. Step 2, take a scoring tool and score vertically in half. You can use a scoreboard like this or a dried up pen. Step 3, cut horizontally in half to get 2 greeting cards. Fold along the score line, then unfold it to make the card lay flat on your work surface. Now, I designed these 2 magenta outlines of hearts fading to white in the middle, so it makes it easy for you to fill in these shapes. This way, you don't have to worry about outlining a heart shape or getting your elements spaced evenly on your card. Before I start showing how to make these cards, I just want to say I designed this tutorial and free PDF download to help beginners feel like quilling a card can be easy and fun to do. My main goal is to make quilling less intimidating. If you want to see more tutorials like this, please let me know by leaving a comment below or click the link and subscribe button. Okay, let's get started. If you're new to quilling, this is the perfect card for beginners. In fact, it's based on the same card idea I made for my mom for her birthday in 2007. This is the first card I ever quilled for her, and it was inspired when I walked by a store in the mall called La Vie en Rose. This is a picture I took of the front of their store, and I remember thinking it looked just like quilling, so I went home and made this card. She loved it so much she kept it on her fridge for years. To make this card, I cut all my strips to 4 inches long. The paper that I'm using here is 1/8 inch wide, and it's just conventional thin kind of quilling paper. And I love this burgundy color because it's always such a nice contrast against a light pink. So let's get started making the basic S scroll, and you can see the S scroll is right here and winding that way. So let's just make one of those. I'm just going to, what I tend to do is soften my strip. So we already see that we have an S shape going on, and to do that I just ran my finger along the strip like that, turned it around this direction, and ran it again that direction. So I just tend to soften my paper fibers like that. And then what I'm going to do is press the paper against my finger using the tool like that and gather it up. And we have a tight coil on one side, and then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on this side. And we can see that the S shape that I've made here is quite tight. And let me show you a simple way to loosen up those coils. I'm just going to unravel it by hand and then re-ravel it again. Do you see how much more open that is in comparison to what it started off with? And I can do the same with the other side. And then all of a sudden our coil looks completely different. And if you want to, you can re-ravel this one just a little bit smaller and recoil this one just a little bit larger. And then look what happens. Now one side is smaller and one side is larger, so we call that asymmetrical kind of S scroll. And there's a little bit of kinkiness going on right around here. And so I'm just going to smoothen that out using my tool. I'm going to grip this side and just kind of smoothen those paper fibers, just gently running it like that. And then it just kind of smoothens those little kinks out, anything that you might see. Usually I find that happens between those 2 coils. So we've just got one done, and you would just go around the entire heart. I tend to start right here and place this here, and then just outline the heart all around with these loose shapes. And I wouldn't worry about gluing just yet. I basically tend to fill the outline first, and if I like what I see, then that's when I dip them into glue and then glue the outline just to give myself like a starting point. And another shape that I have here is what they call the C scroll, and this is kind of backwards, but it just kind of fit that shape quite well. So I'll just show you how to do that. We're just going to soften both sides, and we can see that we're already getting that arc of the letter C. And just like with the S scroll, we're just going to press the tool into our finger, coil it up, turn it around, and do the same thing. And again, this is what you would find as a standard kind of C scroll. And again, I'm just going to uncoil it a little bit and then recoil it by hand. And that gives us that sort of conch shape that has, to me, it has more vitality, it has more dynamic movement for your eyes. And so I just kind of go around the hearts and determine where do I like those coils happening and adjust as I go. And then I just kind of dip it into glue and fill that outline. And then that is, to me, the easiest way I can possibly fill a shape. One other tip I have for you when you're filling in your heart is to pretend it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. And if you're trying to see, does this shape fill this area well? And if it doesn't, then just take it out and uncoil it, recoil it the way that you want it to fit, and then put it back into that space, and just like a jigsaw puzzle, see if it fits. If it doesn't, take it out, adjust, and then try it again and make it fit within that area. This is a very adjustable shape, both of these, and you can make it form any kind of hole that you want. Okay, pretend it's a jigsaw puzzle. Now that you guys have mastered the S scroll, we're going to try something called the loose scroll. And to me, it just kind of looks like a question mark. We have a coil here, and then the tail just kind of ends as a loose kind of tail. And so the strips that we're using here are measured in 3 inches, 2 inches, and 1.5. So where we're using them is these loose scrolls here are 3 inches. The heart here, the larger heart here, is the 2 inch, and this smaller heart is 1.5 inch. And I'll show you how to make all those elements. So let's just start with the loose scroll first. So just like the S scroll, I'm just going to soften one direction and soften the other direction. So we can see the beginning of an S scroll here, and I'm just going to coil this one up. And we can see the beginning of that right there. So I'm just going to loosen that up and just recoil that by hand. And that's how we get that shape. Now you're wondering, okay, well, how do you get more of that coil there to happen? And you can actually use your circumference of your tool to just kind of press that into your finger, and voila, there you go. There you've got more curve. And that's how I've done every one of these ones here. It was just that easy. So to create the hearts, and it's the same whether it's the larger heart or the smaller heart, okay? So I'll just show you one time, but really it's just the size of the strip that makes it different. So what I'm going to do is fold the strip in half. And then I'm going to curve it this way and this way, kind of like a bird in the horizon. And then I'm going to turn it upside down and curl it this way. So now it kind of looks a bit like a mustache in a way, like that. Okay, and now do you see these two curves that are going upwards? Let's just give them a little bit more curve like that. On either side, we're going to turn that mustache down a bit, and then we're just going to add a little dab of glue and then bring these two ends together. And then I'm just going to re-accentuate that fold right here and just pinch that with my tweezers. And that's how we get the heart. So simple, right? That easy. If you're having problems gluing your shapes to your card and you're finding that you're having lots of specks of glue showing on your work surface, you can watch my other glue video and find out why I smear my glue, how I glue my pieces to my card. And another tip I might be able to give you when you're gluing shapes that are longer like this is to set one side down before you do the other. So in other words, after I've dipped my shape into some glue, what I tend to do is keep this side up in the air and put this side down first. So if you can imagine, this whole surface is glued. What I would do is leave this part up in the air, set this point down, and just kind of set your finger on top of it gently so that it doesn't move, and then glue this side down. You can see what happens is this way your eye is not forced to look at so many places all at one time. I'm forcing my eye to just look at this one end right here and then this side here. And I'll try to show you from the side view. What we would do is just kind of set this tail side down first, right where you want. Put your finger there so it doesn't move around. And then here, you see how this finger can, this part of my hand here can dictate exactly where I want that coil to go. And I want it to go there to follow that outline here. Then from there, you can press down. And hopefully that's going to alleviate any extra glue spots where you don't want it to be. Okay, that was card number 2. I hope you enjoy making this one. For the first 2 cards, I deliberately showed you examples of cards that use just one color of quilling strip on the design. And for some beginners, I know that you can sometimes feel a little overwhelmed by all the color choices, so I just want to show you that your cards can look just as beautiful with just one color. Now this card is based on page 2 of my PDF file, and as you can see, I've got the writing in here already. And basically I just kind of eyeballed it, so if I want to make a shape here, I just kind of look at the space around here and triple it. So in other words, if the space is here, then I just kind of eyeball to the left and to the right, and I would just cut right about there and just kind of make my coils for that space. If I find that this is too long or too short, it's really easy to just snip off a little bit extra and then it makes it shorter. And as you've seen me do, you just make your coils a little bit larger, a little tighter, and it just kind of adjusts to fit the space. So I know it can be kind of stressful to try to figure out what is the right length. There is no right length. It's just whatever your fingers want to jigsaw puzzle together these designs. Okay, just give it a try. Now to make the flowers, they're just some simple closed coils, and these ones here were 3 inches long. These smaller ones were about 2 inches long. All I did was take the strip and soften it on both sides and coil it up all the way. So that's a typical kind of tight coil. You can see the difference between that kind of traditional coil and this kind of loose coil. So I just unravel it to about there and then re-ravel it really loosely, and that's how we get that shape. And we'll just glue that closed. And if you want to, you can take a pair of tweezers and just kind of crimp that join just to make sure it seals quite well. So do I care about the circumference of the flowers, making them even? Not really, not even in the slightest. I actually like it when they're different shapes and different sizes, because that's how nature looks. And when they're too similar and the same, it's too static. So I like it when they're slightly smaller, slightly bigger, and just to give that uneven look, it makes it more natural. And then I just changed up some of the colors. So here's a light pink, a medium, and a darker kind of purple that picks up the color in here. So they just kind of all go together. Another tip I have for beginners is to look for the direction of your coil. So because my name starts with the letter C, I make sure that all the coils face in the same direction on your layout. And that way your eye can subtly feel like they're all going in the same direction. It gives a subtle feeling of cohesiveness. When one goes the opposite direction, your subconscious can't tell you quite exactly what's going on, but something feels a little off, okay? Now, I was really lucky to find the exact color match of my paper strip to a piece of cardstock, and to create these leaves, all I did was use a dollar store punch design, and I turned it upside down to save paper, and you'll see how I punched it right to the edge of my paper. When you turn it upside down, you can bring the stamp right to the edge of the paper and then slide it around till you see the one that you punched on the side, and then you know, okay, there I can waste the least amount of paper. And then I would take a pair of scissors and just basically cut one of those petals towards the middle. And then I would take your needle tool and just kind of score along the middle like that. And using my tweezers, I'm just going to crimp it in the middle and fold it in the middle. And there we've got our leaf. And then I would just dip that into some glue and place it to the side of those flowers. So as you can see, it's really easy to make some floral designs. You don't have to create leaves out of quilling paper. We can borrow crafts from other paper crafting supplies and add it to our design here. Don't forget to visit my blog to download my pillow box design so that you can protect your cards with a puff of air.